All right, let's start. All right, guys, we're gonna start with the
That's actually a sweet bird, dude. What's his name?
of the Atlas podcast.
Rocky.
What's his name? Bird Hockey?
Wait, what was the last
Rocky,
name?
bro.
Rocky.
Oh, Rocky.
How old is it?
Yeah.
And you have a fake bird, dude. What the?
Dude, it's so real. What are you talking about, dude?
That bird's not real.
It's real, dude.
Super well behaved.
Yo, you're like a scuffed fucking fell. Look at you, dude. Scuffed. Look at that scuffed bird.
Bro, if it ain't scuffed, it ain't me, dog.
I like this.
All right, let's start. I don't think we're missing anyone. Well, welcome everyone to the State of Atlas podcast. I think we have someone new here. It was Tim, right? Tim, do you want to give a quick introduction to who you are, where you come from, and what tribe you are and stuff?
I'm the one that made the SDC Goes NA PvP video that I think all of you watched last week. I watched the podcast last time. It was interesting what you guys were talking about. I'm also known for making spreadsheets, specifically one in early July, which contained detailed feedback about the game. Started making YouTube videos shortly after. Yeah. And I really wanted to get on this podcast to talk and discuss the game.
Well, that's good. Nice. So, let's jump into the current meta. Like, what do you guys think about the overall recent changes, especially with intelligence and the harpoon changes in general? We'll talk more in detail about those. But what do you guys think in general of the current state of the meta? And I don't know, Zunit, you want to start?
Yo, fuck harpoons, anyways, dude. Schooner squad, bro. So coming in hot with the Schooner squad, dude. Harpoons were a big pain in the ass, But now, good luck, dude. We can rat gang all day and just swarm. Don't have to worry about these giant ships going harpooning the brigs or the schooners and just not being able to do anything. So I'm with it, dude. Fuck them.
Yeah,
all the other PvE stuff, though, I'm not with.
Was it that like the brigs were not really viable against like galleons because of the harpoon before? Because I didn't really see many people run with brigs. It was just like schooners and galleons. So, like,
it's because harpoons are so dominant, and brigs can't grapple galleons, so they always had a disadvantage.
Yeah, it's just speed meta right now. So if you're not fast like a brig, you just get beamed, especially with the harpoon. I do think, though, that with the harpoon change, they need to change free ports because, Bucket Gang is so strong right now. It still is. Like, even though they nerf campfires or like throwing water into campfires, people still run to free ports like it's nothing. You zone in, you're free. Like that's what we want to stop. Like, in my opinion, they need to do some sort of green anchor on free ports to balance out the harpoon. Otherwise, people are just going to run forever.
Huh. So what do you guys think they should do then? Like, to stop people from running to free ports if the harpoon meta... The harpoons used to stop people from just running to the free port, right? So what should they do in that case?
I mean, you can still harpoon people. Just requires a lot more effort in team play.
Okay.
That's true. Bar shot's also really good right now too.
Yeah, and flame swivel's also back. That was like the old harpoon. You would flame swivel the sails, and you would always catch up to them. It's basically like a budget harpoon, you could say.
I think the whole galleon versus galleon thing is definitely different now. Schooners and bar shot things varied into ship fights, and especially like fleet versus fleet are going to be much different now, because before you could just take 10 galleons versus 10 galleons. Harpoons is all you needed. Well, now you can mix things in a bit. I do think that the harpoon nerf is a little bit harsh, but I'm excited to see the changes and the value that brigs and schooners will bring into a fleet fight now, and I think they're going to have a much better position and make it more interesting.
I think with the harpoon change, projectile drag and that massive issue when you're driving away from a boat, you have a significant advantage versus the pursuer, because the person that's being chased has the ability to just lob cannonballs, and the pursuer just eats shit all day long. And there's nothing you can really do about that now that you can't put a harpoon on the front of your boat. I mean, you can stop it, but there's not a lot you can do about that, and that's just given with the current way that they have their projectiles programmed, which is unfortunate. It's kind of a bigger bug than something that they can just check a box and fix, but hopefully that's something they'll look into to make boat fighting a little more interesting, where if you want to do an exchange with a ship, you have to go broadside to broadside rather than your ass to their face and then just get free damage. I don't think that's really balanced.
I don't think the harpoon ever fixed that though. It's like if you happen to be at an angle to harpoon them before they would start running away from you, sure. But even with the harpoon, you have to be faster than they did.
This is true, but it also forced them into positions or in and out of positions a lot more. There was a lot more consequence to being out of position than there is now, which, I mean, you can still use the harpoon, and I think that's fine.
Sure,
It just is more fleet, more like team play, which Felon was saying, which I agree with. I think it's probably a step in the right direction, for sure. But I think there's just a couple other changes to ships that definitely need to happen in order to get it to where it needs to be.
I mean, they did put it in the patch notes that they didn't think that the change was like where they wanted to be in the end. It's just that it's like the first of many changes probably to the entire system. Because a lot of people, from what I've heard, they wanted the harpoons to be gone completely because it killed ship diversity for them. Like people who like to play on brigs and be competitive, they felt like they were at such a big disadvantage, they wanted them gone. The schooners kind of got pushed out because there were no brigs to fight, and the people who like to play large cannon galleons felt like they were inferior because of this entire grappling meta. So I think overall, it's probably not where we want the harpoon to be, like in this really weird niche spot right now. But I feel like it's a lot better than what we had before. It's like kind of like a compromise, in my opinion.
I agree. I personally find brigs to be far more fun than galleons, and I love sailing around in brigs and fighting people. And towards the end of the season, last like 4 months of the last season, it's like, what's the point of taking a brig or schooner when you could just take another galleon and have another giant force with you?
Yeah, and the galleon versus galleon, even in the harpoon meta, it wasn't about who was the better captain. It was about who had the slightly higher damage roll on their cannons, or who had the slightly higher HP roll on their gunports. So I think it brings back a lot of actual ship PvP and driving the ship, as opposed to just sitting on the steering wheel and yelling at people to bucket and to repair planks, because nobody was actually driving. Nobody was sailing around. They were just stuck in place shooting each other. And I don't know, I think they both have their merits, but I think the new system is going to bring a lot of variety, not just in ship types, but also how the ship fights actually happen. So I think overall it's a good change.
Okay. Well, let's jump into Korean wars. Like, who's fighting who? Like, changes. I know, Fallon, you changed companies recently, and I'm actually the workers are like, what's going on like the entry side, and like this, like Zunit style around your guys' style, because I don't know what's going on that side. Like, we have our own issues up there with us and SDC in general. Like, anyone give me a quick rundown of like what's going on the current politics and wars?
Politics are all over the place.
Yeah,
on our
pretty
side,
much.
you saying like?
Yeah. Like,
Honestly, there's no. It feels kind of calm. That we have like one little alliance, like the Black Hole guys, and they do nothing. They're chat warriors and Reddit warriors. That's all they do. They literally just blow themselves in Reddit. Like that's all they do. I don't know. Which obviously Reddit's kind of whatever, but other than that, we just go around and just do whatever. There's really no contesting. There's no real problems going on there. Actually, our only problem is we sunk a Bob recently, and he's been spawning every day in our harbor and just killing all our NPCs. That's the worst thing we have going on. He's a solo player. He's Pablo, dude. He's a hero. He's a hero among men. Yeah, he's a bully. He's bullying me. I wake up with fucking night terrors because of this kid. It's insane. But
Season
yeah,
one all over
other than
again.
that, we have like one group and all they just yell fob up and at the top of their lungs, and that's really it. So it's like a couple of it's like us, gang. I think SDC's somewhere in the area. I'm not sure exactly, but we're kind of just more boys than anything. Not so much alliance, but I don't know. Is there any big wars going on your side? Because it feels like it's like a limbo period of where people aren't really going real deep on anybody right now. After that whole SDC diving into the old harbor or whatever that was. I don't know what that was. I don't know.
So
Oh,
as far as
fun.
SDC and PCA, SDC is going full in on PCA, like throwing everything on the table. So we've taken islands and we're doing everything we can to get that war going. But I don't know. As Dolphin, he was somewhat interested, but I left PCA because I was tired of the shit. That's all there is to it. I don't want to touch up too much on it for all this, but just to fill people in that don't know what's going on, or what. I left PCA because I was tired of the leadership over there and tired of the bullshit. So I decided to do my own thing. Eugene offered me a spot, and I took it, and that's all there is to it.
Based Eugene.
Yeah. Like on our side, we're still been fighting mostly SDC. Like we haven't even bothered with all the there's like all these little Bob Xbox drives. I assume that's what they are. That have been popping up on our left side of the map. Haven't even bothered visiting those islands, right? But just been like SDC this, fighting with SDC and stuff like that. What I'm curious is that are we gonna end up having like another big alliance like Dynasty and stuff like that? In a couple weeks or months. Like, what do you guys think? Is there gonna be like, what's everyone gonna be like on their little corners right now? Because I feel like that's what's happening. Like, our PCA is against SDC, like you guys with Black Hole and stuff like that. So there's isn't really like huge alliance like it used to be in season 1, right?
So I think what's happening right now is that the alliances are all reforming. Like it's kind of like season 1 all over again. Everyone's kind of like, where do we sit? Where do we stand? Like PC is kind of doing their own thing while Xbox is doing their own thing. Like these small alliances like have not become big alliances on Xbox yet. They're still kind of in their prepubescent phase of growing. Just imagine it's season 1 for like Xbox players and people who are just now starting to play the game again. Whereas the PC mega companies are just doing their own thing. Like we're just on a different level just because we played this game for so long. So I think these alliances will pop up eventually, but I think we're kind of at that weird period where alliances really haven't kind of poked out too much besides, like the originals.
I think it's natural when the server resets that, alliances kind of reset. Some stick together, but a lot of them reset. And I think naturally, as the game progresses, it will always go towards two big alliances or one at the end of the day. Because, you either get wiped or you join.
I would like to make a point to say that in my experience, these mega alliances only exist because the Chinese alliances would unify so well and farm the shit out of everything in the game, and they would make this massive alliance, and their presence is not really here as much this season as it was the last 2. So the need to have these giant mega alliances just to be able to take on the Chinese alliance at the same time, it's not really there this season. It's not as threatening as it was before. So I really think that most companies could do their own thing and have a lot more fun this season. As like just about every company could, and have a lot more fun. Will it happen? No. PCA is going to stick together no matter what. IRS, I'm not sure how well you guys work together or whatnot, but you guys will probably hang out. But overall, I think it's going to be a lot different this season than it was 1 and 2 for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be much better because I honestly see every little alliance kind of doing their own thing. Not like this one huge side against the other side like in season 1. So I feel like it's more dynamic, especially since, like you said before, there's not that large circle of like those Asian tribes like there used to be in season 1. Talk about like alliance in general. Like now that we have crossplay, what do you guys think? Was that a good thing? What they done with crossplay?
Lawlesses are popping, man. There's people all over the lawlesses right now.
I was on a couple lawless areas near the 8 zones, and I always see the pop around 60, 80, 50.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty insane. I was like, I would run to like little small groups of like 5, 10 Xbox players. And I haven't seen that in a long time. Like, I only saw that when the game was first launched.
Yeah, the population is coming back really well.
With that being said, what do you guys think is there are gonna be any huge Xbox alliances, any like huge Xbox group, or do you think they're just gonna stay like really small groups?
I really hope so. I'd be really excited to see that Xbox players, even if they just stick to playing with other Xbox players, just unify and stick to the game. I feel like it's just getting more and more healthy right now. I showed up over in a Lawless last week, and there was this huge little RP alliance meeting of the Xbox players, and it was adorable. We ran around. Some of us were naked, and they were punching us. One guy had like a level 9 horse and shit, and it was just like it felt like week 1 Atlas, how it should have been, So it's like the moments like that are just so cool, and it was so genuine, So I really hope to see more of that, especially with the direction that the game is heading.
Do you think like most Xbox players are gonna be able to take LAN though? Because I see like Lawless is popping, but the majority of the Xbox players seem to be living on Lawless, and that can only last so long because they don't have offline threat protection on Lawless, right? So they get raided pretty much all day. They don't have like I feel like there's this problem with Lawless where like Lawless can be grief and raided pretty much 24/7, while the other settlements can just have the benefits from.
I think that Lawless is not supposed to be a place where people live long term.
Right.
They want the people to get out of Lawless, and if you look around on the map compared to last season or towards the end of last season, almost all islands are taken, like except for like the polar ones, right, where nobody wants to live.
Would you say that we have a problem though? If there's finite amount of islands, and you get in all this influx of new players, a lot of these players start on Lawless, right? And they don't. They can just be grief every day, and they can't really progress, especially since most of the islands are taken. So how would I feel like there's a broken system with Lawless. Like
I think they're claiming islands at the same time though, because I don't know if you guys realize, but before Xbox launched, like there was a ton of open islands in the 8 row, in the 3 and 2 row, and whatnot. And if you go look now, they're taken all over the place. Like there's only a few open islands now, so I don't think they're all in Lawless. I think they're taking islands all over. There's just a lot more than we thought there was, and they're still hanging out in Lawless as well. But hopefully they get on forums or the larger companies, whatnot, kind of give them a nudge or push in the right direction, help them out rather than grouping up to wiping them out instead. It's kind of lame, but hopefully we help them more than get them on their feet, make it a little more fair.
Yeah, it's just the natural progression of the game is, I started on Lawless. I didn't even know better. And coming into season 2 and season 3 mechanics of where you actually have to pay an upkeep for the flag, these like 4 or 5 member groups are like, well, man, like, I don't know, that's a lot of gold to keep an island for that long. We're going to have to build defenses and stuff. Like they're not like I guess they're not thinking of the potential of like, hey, well, why don't we ally up? Why don't we just make this easier by making friends and we can share the benefits of having a larger company? Like they're not at that point of the game, a lot of them, but I mean, they are definitely claiming islands. So I think they'll get off of Lawless eventually, but it's just the natural progression of the game.
I agree.
I personally have a disagreement on that, because I feel like if you're starting now as an Xbox player and you're trying to progress, you're trying to get your boat up, right? I'm thinking more like the casual players and like those little solo small groups. Like if they're trying to start up and I'm trying to build a boat, right? And I just come back the next day and my boat gets destroyed on Lawless. That kind of stops a lot of that is very frustrating in my opinion for those little small groups. Like do you think they should give Lawless their own peace combat phase, so they can't be grief 24/7?
Uh,
Do you think that would be a
I
good
think
idea?
I feel like when you get so you start the game out, you go to your lawless zone, you get grief. You have two kinds of people. You have the people that makes them want to quit the game. You have the other people who that just makes them stronger, makes them unite with their player core. And then they go, they get better at the game, they make progress, they take an island. And I think with the environment that Atlas is trying to push, I don't think a peacetime zone for lawless would be a good idea. But I do definitely understand what you're saying. Is it's not fair to newer players that have to live off of lawless. But again, that's kind of inherent with the name lawless. You know, you can't go and put peacetime laws in that particular area. And again, you remember at the end of season 2 how many free open islands there were at the end of it. It's because there wasn't really enough players. Right now, you have companies that are taking multiple islands just to hold the tiles around them. And you know, I think as Xbox players progress and things become more densely packed, it's going to become more difficult to hold multiple islands for single companies. So I think you'll see a lot more war, which is good for the game itself, because it's kind of a cannibalistic type of environment at the moment, where the game feeds on the players in order to have players give players content. So I think in that sense, it's kind of in a healthy state where the lawless gets pushed into either getting wiped or uniting into alliances, and then pushing other people out of those other peacetime islands and pushing forward. But that gets us into another entirely different topic about the current claim flag system, which is in a very difficult spot right now.
Yeah, when I lived on Lawless, I got my boat sunk every single day. We built a new brig every single day, and it was awful, but we loved it.
Huh. Do you think they're gonna do crossplay with PS4, or like are they gonna put them in their own?
Of course they're going to do it. They're running the same cycle they ran with Arc. They do Xbox first, then a few months later they're going to run another either wipe or just an integration.
Do you think they will wipe again for the PS4?
Fuck
players?
yeah! Why wouldn't they? That'd be stupid not to.
I absolutely
They said
agree.
they
with
don't
Zunit
want
there.
to.
And there's no reason not to. Like, what's the reason not to? This isn't Arc where you have breed line. I mean, you have breed lines, but nobody really gives a fuck about them. Like, maybe like 10 people total in this game really care about their lions. Other than that, everyone's out there doing whatever. So I feel like this is an easier game to wipe every so often. Might as well do it. If it's going to introduce that many people, make it a level playing field. Do not start a new PvP server to compensate for that. I'd say just wipe it and go.
I agree, but I think they publicly said that they do not want to wipe the game again.
They always say that shit. They're Wildcard 2.0. It's Grape Shot. It's the same people. They always say, we don't want to wipe. They're going to wipe, or they should wipe. If they don't wipe, they're dumb. Just like Wildcard should wipe. If they don't, they're dumb.
I mean,
I agree
maybe
with
they're
Zunit.
saying that they won't do it because they want you to think that they don't do it.
Well, the thing is, I feel like they're stuck in this ARC mentality where like wiping is a bad thing, but if like
Nah.
this game is different enough to be. We're just gonna do seasonal wipes every now and then where we see the pop goes down or something like that, right? But if you adopt the ARC mentality where you never wipe, you have the situations, for example, in ARC where like you never wipe and people can't really. You have this very low pop servers all the time. It's not healthy for the game overall.
I think with Arc, it is a little. I honestly think Arc's in a significantly different position than Atlas is, because it's kind of like Zunit was saying, and you were kind of touching up on Dolphin. Arc, you have these breeds which are super influential in Arc that take years. You have these breed lines that have been just perfected and are still have this massive growth that's even still going on today. You can still breed in more mutations into these breed lines that you have. It's a massive thing. No and Arc has these incredible breeds that they are still working on, right? And many other companies do too. You've got YSS with all their breed lines, and the thing about wiping is you reset that back to ground zero, all that progress for those players. I think what potentially they could do for Atlas. Either they introduce seasonal wipes, which we've already noted that they don't want to do, right? So you could just introduce a lower capping system. I feel like would be a much better move there rather than giving a seasonal wipe, because then you still have players who have gotten to this point, but it's not such a massive gap. It's not like level 450 with infinite breeds, infinite mutations rather, on your breed lines. That's just impossible to get to for like a new player without spending an equivocal amount of time to get there. That's not really fair to them. So I think if they bring, like, say, let's just say, for example, you bring the player cap down, right? They've already limited your HP, for example. We know that the tame cap is the same. The breed cap is the same as ARG is, which is an issue. That's like right around 450. So if the servers were continued to go onwards, you'd have unkillable tigers, unkillable razor tooths, and you'd end up in the same scenario, which again, they're saying that they're going to address. But I think just limiting things to the point where it isn't incredibly difficult to get to those end game points while still keeping it to a point where it doesn't get excessively boring at end game, I think is going to be very crucial to find a balance there.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think if you get the community used to wipe, seasonal wipes or something like that, I think it'd be better for this game instead of just saying we're never gonna wipe, because I don't think that's gonna work for this game.
I think wipes feel nice because just freshens up the game. You don't have all this render lag again, and you get to progress, like build all your ships again, and level and power stones and everything. But this game is marketed as an survival MMO, right? And I've never heard of an MMO that wipes, that has like seasonal wipes or anything like that. I think it's a pretty strange concept, and I think the longevity of the game, like the amount of time it takes to get to level 150 and to do all this PvE content, I think it's pretty unfair to wipe on a regular basis, like if it's every couple of months. I think there
I
should
agree
be
with that.
different ways of them making the game feel fresh, like without resetting someone who got to level 150, which at the moment, like if you do maps, takes more than 1,000 hours. I think that's not really a good system to have. They would either have to reduce the level curve or the progression curve by a lot, or never wipe.
I personally think that it's healthy for the game to wipe within every 6 months, but I strongly don't think that they will wipe the game within at least 6 to 8 months, maybe even longer. They've got this whole roadmap that they released and the whole plan set out, and they were very forward saying that they do not intend to wipe. So I don't think we'll see it anytime soon. They definitely
how
will
many
again.
times did Arc wipe?
Twice, maybe.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we might see another wipe with the game
I'm
officially
hoping they
launches.
do a wipe for the PS4 crossplay and put the PS4 players on our servers. That would make the game, even better, because we have all that pop of PS4 players.
Hold on, guys. We're gonna stop and do a push-up contest. Fucking dumb. Holy fucking heck.
So what do you guys think about the changes to intelligence? Like, was that a good thing? I think that happened.
I like it
right
personally.
after the podcast.
Yeah. I think it's a good change. It nerfs everything without having to nerf everything, so to speak. By making everything harder to get good crafts on it all, it lowers the percentages you can get on everything and makes it a little more balanced towards people that are not able to get as good of things. So it's a step in the right direction.
The gap.
I think that resistance is still at 8%. That's still too high. It should come down to like 5 or 6, maybe a little bit higher than damage. But other than that, I like it a lot.
Oh, you mean for ships? I thought we were talking about intelligence in general.
Yeah, well, intelligence directly affects ships as well because it's been nerfed. So the less percentage.
I think that the change is pretty similar to the mentality behind the boon change, because it closes the gap, definitely, and I think it's also not where they want intelligence to be at the end, but it's like a step in the right direction, like closing the gap between high-end companies or high-end players and people who are just starting out, because no one's having fun getting, starting out, making a common brick and getting sunk by someone who has an infinitely better ship. So I think in that sense it's a really good idea. Overall, I think having like the maximum bonus you can get mathematically right now is 20.4%. It's the highest crafting bonus possible, as opposed to 60% before. And getting to this crafting bonus requires level 130 crow, which nobody has at the moment. So I think it's a bit like the intelligence curve is a bit weird, because everybody starts out at 15% immediately, or pretty much close to 15% immediately, and the maximum you can get is 20. So there's not much progression left in that department. And I think it might have been better if they, instead of nerfing it or making it harder to get high crafts, they could also have gone the route of making it extremely easy. So instead of needing a lot of people to get really high intelligence, high-end company, they could have also made it very easy to get, even for like a small group of players. Let's say they take 3 weeks or a month or whatever to get to the 60% craft, which before only high-end companies could do.
Now, is that with a level 150 player and the Dolphin buff?
Yeah, Dolphin buffs gives 50% intelligence, 50 intelligence flat. Crow is kept at 60 int, and then if you level 150, you get 149 level ups. That's 2 intelligence per level up. So in total, the maximum intelligence you can get is 508 if you're level 150.
That's good to know.
Yeah, the disparity between, like Tim was saying, the disparity between high end and low end is kind of killer. I mean, yesterday we one-shot a common brig with our mythical galleon, and it's like, in the time you're like, man, that was cool, but also at the same time, like that was an enemy of us, but also at the same time, if that was a Bob, I mean, they would just be like, what do I do? Like, I can't compete with that. So
yeah, but you're still one-shotting them, right? Even though they nerfed intelligence.
Yep.
Yeah, so like I think the change is good. It's better than the system we had before, but I don't think this is the complete solution. I think they've even stated this in the patch notes as well, that they're not done changing intelligence. And I don't know. I think it's a good change though overall.
Yeah.
Do you think that those numbers are in a good position though, like for the intelligence nerf, or do you think they should nerf intelligence or like crafting skill in general even further?
I don't know. I feel like they always do this bullshit. They make like the skill gap there, but then as you progress in BPs and intelligence and all that bullshit, like you take away the ability for people to join the games. That's why you need force wipes, just like an arc. The Wookiee said, like, take away like all the BPs and skill and just make everything base level. What would that do to the game? Let's say if we took away all BPs and all that stuff, would the grind just be shittier? Or if they just left in like, I don't know, PvP gear or something like that? I know the grind would be more boring because like, what would you care about rare resources for and things like that? But what if they brought down the damage and all that stuff of all this, end game stuff? I don't know. I don't really care, but I'm just saying in general. If say tomorrow they said fucking deleted all BPs, would the game die or would it be more balanced?
It would be really fun for about 2 months, and you would see a massive fall off at endgame because there would be nothing to strive for.
So you mean like
it's the same thing as giving everyone a top tier mythical galleon from printed straight out of their shipyard.
What you're saying is you would see the exact same shit you saw season 1 and 2 and possibly 3, a massive fall off.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. Just for clarity. Got it. I'm curious because like that does. I mean, we've been putting together some better ships and schooners mainly. You know what I mean? Schooners mainly, but still, like there's no way a new group is gonna do work against somebody else. I'm always looking for somebody away, and everyone's gonna say Zunit only raids Bobs because that's true. We just sink park ships all the time, but it's farming. God damn it. But still, is there a way to make it so it's not so ridiculous? I don't think you guys are overshooting Xbox hard. You thinking they're going to come out with all these crazy companies like, yeah, Xbox is going to, I heard it 3 times already. Xbox is going to, they're going to do well if they just keep on doing their thing. 90% of the Xbox dudes are trying to merge into the PC guys because they have 4 players with them. I mean, that's the actual truth. Where's the actual Xbox clans out there doing work? There's none. You guys are fabricating some bullshit mega Xbox alliance that's coming together and really working their way to the top. You know, I saw them at the Power Stones, boys. I saw them there. No, they're fucking
So-
not. They're doing that because they saw you guys doing that, and they're just
So
gonna get
you would
raided.
prefer this game to kind of be more like Sea of Thieves then, where you just get dropped in with a standardized ship and you don't really get any tools or any sense of progress? I mean, that's kind of the way I'm reading this.
No, you're reading it because you're assuming that this is my opinion. I'm saying hypothetically, if we took away all the stuff, so you're reading it as a way of me saying I want Sea of Thieves. No, I want a balanced game that invites new players to the game so it doesn't die like every other season. That's what I want. I want a season that lasts versus a season
Right.
that's 2 months in and doesn't last. Is there a way to
so
do
where's
that?
the suggestion?
I think the problem we have is player retention.
Where's the
right?
suggestion? I don't have the suggestion. I'm just saying in general, is there a way, is there a direction we can probably, being a brain group, or that's what we're supposed to be, is there a way to go towards that in conversation versus just talking about the current meta all the time and saying, this is this, and this. We need to kind of figure out, maybe it's time for the conversation of how do we balance the game to where it's compatible for new players and holding a player base.
True.
I think it's a problem of like a lot of the Xbox players, especially the small five-man groups. Let's assume once they get out lawless, they actually have an island, right? Or like they share an island with another small group. Like a lot of them, I'm not gonna be able to farm all 6 different types of resources for wood and stuff like that, right? And get like their mythical galleons. I don't think they'll ever. I don't think they will ever able to get there, and the game doesn't really facilitate a way for those small groups to grow. And in general, I kind of agree with Zunit. Like the game needs to be balanced a little bit more towards allowing those smaller groups to be able to grow instead of just like, because we're just gonna keep rough stomping all those small groups regardless of what happens.
Yeah, and just remember, I'm with you. I played obviously end game of like Arc and all that stuff, so I'm with actual long-term gameplay, and I don't want another Sea of Thieves. I think Sea of Thieves is the most casual bullshit I've ever seen.
Yeah, I wouldn't want them to take PPs away though. Like
No, I think there needs to be a serious grind, but how do we figure out a way to hold? Like this has been a great time. This last few weeks, this season 3 wipe, I don't know about you guys, but the game's running great. It's inviting new players. There's PvP out there in the world to be had. How do we make it so a newer group can come in consistently so we always have that, but it's not overbalanced where we're just one-tapping everything?
I mean, I guess I have a question on that, and it's something that I asked the last podcast too, is if, say, this 4-man group goes and grinds their asses off and gets their mythical galley, should they be in a position then that they can get sunk by someone else with a journeyman galley? I don't know that the answer to that should be yes. I mean, I understand that larger companies are, of course, going to be able to push for that way harder, but I don't really have an answer for that. They can't really limit the amount of players that you can have in your company because people are still going to work together regardless. You remember CSCG from season 2, they were spyglassing each other to see who they were allied with because they were past cap.
Season 2 had 400 players. That's not even a relevant topic, I don't think. I think
At the end of it.
that season should just get the fuck out of there because I was there for the beginning of season 2 and then it dropped off within a week. More than like 70%.
Yeah,
Everyone left.
I think we touched a little about that on the last podcast. I still personally think my solution would be for them to let them upload their stuff. Like all those Xbox players, I bet you they would stay longer if they didn't have to worry about getting offline rated, or like getting grief all the time. If they could just upload their stuff, at least that would be my solution.
That'd be sick. At least a boat without gear on it, with no resources. So you had to go out and farm gear and shit like that. Download your boat and take off. But that's, again, we have all of the streamers in here who stream. You have Dolly in there. You have Jat in your chats. You have everybody listening, and everyone says kind of, I don't know if you guys say it, but I've said things like that. I don't think they have any ambition to make uploadable boats. So we should just write that right off.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They've stated that multiple times. They do want, like, the ship in the bottle solution is something that has been discussed many times, and they are considering it. And I think in general, like, being able
also
to
considered wiping Arc and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
thing.
one of those things that we give them when people give them the same feedback, the same suggestions over and over. That happened when the 50,000 players originally came to this game. They wanted those stuff that we are talking about now. Or I see some new Reddit threads recently talking about how can I protect my ship while I'm not around, and it's the same thing, shipping a bottle. Like if players want the stuff, I think the best approach would be for them to give them that. They'll say like, we're just thinking about it. You know.
I agree. I think one of the ways to keep players, like have higher player retention rate, is to make it easier to store or save progress in general. I'm not just talking about ships. I think the way the game is right now, where it's mandatory to have like a huge ass base on an island with a couple hundred puckles defending it, I don't think that's how it should be. I think it should be incentivized for people to take an island and to live on an island and have their stuff out there to be raidable, but I don't think it should be mandatory. Like, we had this in EU last season. We had these guys living in Freeport, and in the beginning, like the first 2 or 3 weeks, we always made fun of them. Like they were living on their 3 or 4 boats living in Freeport, and they had shifts repairing the ships, and they had one ship completely overloaded when they introduced the green anchor stuff. And we always made fun of them in the beginning, but later on we kind of wanted to be them. You know, being able to live on a Freeport and not have to worry about your base getting griefed, like in the middle of the night, because like even though you have peace phases, still a lot to keep up with, you know, every single day, 9 hours a day. You still need a lot of people. And I think especially for smaller groups, not being able to take one day off the game without getting wiped and losing all of your tangible progress. Like you get to keep your character level, but let's be real, nobody cares about their level if their boats sink and their base gets raided. So I think overall, I would be in favor of even having PvE grids on a PvP server. I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, you got to think about that. Is there's a few problems that have keep coming up about that that I've seen on, well, not personally, but I've heard about on private servers. Is that what happens? Is people live on the PvE servers and then they go out and grief every single day, and there's no actual solution to wipe them or get rid of them. Because if you have an enemy that just shows up to your base every day and is like killing your tames, whatever. Like, what are you going to do if they live on a PvE island? There's no solution besides you have to move, and you're getting punished for not living on a PvE grid.
Yeah,
Right,
but they could incentivize it,
Yeah,
they could make
but
farming
you
rates
can't-
higher on PvP servers or PvP islands.
Yeah, but
And
you
have
can't
you guys-
really.
like,
Also, you
2x
can't really
on it.
compare the unofficial servers with how it is right now. Like, I don't think any Xboxes, like, let's say they adopt that system where they can just live freely in the Freeport for a certain amount of time or whatever. Like, I don't think those 5 Xbox players or that little small group is gonna be able to wipe or have the staff to wipe a large group. They're not gonna be able to like compete against like SDC or like PCA or being able to assault and like just take over an island. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I'm not saying that they're going to wipe them, but if they just grief every single day, it's just the same thing in season 1. We had a group of like 8 guys who came to our harbor every single day and sank 8 boats every single day just because they were angry. They lived on Lawless. We'd wipe them every single night. One of our guys would drop 300 mortars on their base every single night. And it didn't matter if they got wiped or not. They would just come back. I mean, they might as well have lived on a Freeport. We couldn't do anything to them. And it's the same thing.
But doesn't
Like-
that give you like? But if you wipe them right away, right? Like, let's say they live actually on an island, they didn't live in a Freeport. Once you wipe them, they're not gonna come back.
No, these guys came back every night. Every single night.
I mean,
They'll come back if they're got
I think the issue is like they will stay around if they're not wiped that easily, though, right?
if they hate you enough, they'll keep coming back, man. They'll just keep coming. I played on a private server once before that had a mix of PvP and PvE in it, and it fucking sucked. It was a terrible idea. They just used the fucking PvE for protection. Megas will use the PvE for protection if you allow them to do it. There's no stopping that. So I think personally that's a terrible idea.
but
But-
what if you incentivize being on a PvP island? Let's say you have double or
rates
triple
in
the farm rates on PvP.
Yeah, so the rates
islands.
in the PvP area were times 5 and times 6 XP,
And
and
nobody
in
would use
the
them.
PvE and the PvE area was normal. There was no increase. All the bigger companies lived in the PvE anyways because it was safe. You can't get your base attacked.
So all the PvP islands were empty.
All the PvP islands were empty, correct? All the events, everything, the events, like the hosted events and stuff in the server, and we sailed to the PvP areas to do the events and shit, and that was it. Nobody wanted to live in the PvP areas because you could get raided at any point, basically.
I would want to live there.
Yeah, I'm sure you. I completely agree with you nowadays. I would want to live there too, but there's still going to be that mega company that exploits it and uses it, and everybody's going to get
I
pissed
mean,
off.
it's not exploiting it. I think, like in my opinion, it's honestly fine if there was a way, like maybe not complete protection, like 100% 24/7, but if there was an easier way to protect your stuff, especially for smaller groups. Like maybe, let's say there's a limit of how much you can protect. Let's say you have one box in a free port. That would help so many people. Like imagine you want to go on a vacation for 11 days, and you play with your wife and your kid. Like you're 3 players. You lose everything if you leave the base for 11 days. It auto decays.
Yeah.
It's all gone. I think that's not good, especially considering the longevity of the game. Like grinding in this game to be, let's say, to beat the game. I know you can't really beat a PvP game, but if you beat the game, it takes you months. And if you take 11 days off the game and you lose everything, I don't think that's a good system. So I think there needs to be some way to save progress, more so than just saving your character level. And I think having safe storage would allow for that. And also what Zunit was saying about, people getting off the pre-port and people getting into the game, like the entry level to the game, I think that should just be accelerated somehow. Like getting a PvP ship onto the water shouldn't take as long as it does now, in my opinion.
Yeah, this goes back to what I said last week. Is I think that the only way that like PvE servers or grids would actually exist is if you put them the furthest away from everyone else. Like they have to be on the very far outside. I want to have all the megas in the center. Like that's going to bring the most content and keep us away from the smaller people so they can actually build up. Like it's going to be 5-man groups versus each other rather than Megazerg versus, little Joe Bob RPing on the seas driving by the mythical galley and just get one shot. Like we need to be pushed to a certain area, whether it's world events or putting our grids that have better results or better farming or anything like that, or better materials towards the center or wherever to push us away from those people.
That would require them to remake the world map, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it. I think it should have been done
I like it too.
a while ago.
Yeah.
That would be
Like
great.
having
What if your company is a certain size? The outskirt islands, say 10 to 25 people in the company, you're allowed to take a certain island on the outskirts. The center islands are the only ones that will support a company of a 75-man size or something like that. Is there any way that they could enforce that?
I don't think that would work.
It's
No.
Spreadsheet Alliance. It's the same
No.
thing. Like
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying this distance. Like, yeah, you can live on the outskirts. You can live in like a PV zone or like a low rate zone, but then you have to sail 6 grids to actually compete with anyone.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's just a time sink. I mean, like that's really all you can do. Pretty much no other system really works from what I've seen.
Okay. Let's talk really quickly about what do you guys think about the underwater bases that I've been seeing lately? Like, is that like,
So that's
Why
where
is
my boy
that
Pablo.
thing
That's
for
where
a
my boy Pablo came from to fucking kill all our NPCs every day. So get him out of here. I don't like him.
I think the game is about being on the ocean, not in the ocean. So I mean, unless you're just really bad and you get sunk all the time, but that's neither here nor there. I think underwater bases should not fucking exist. Like at the very least, just make them take 8 times damage. Same thing with pillar bases. Make pillar bases take 8 times damage, or just like they did in Ark, cave bases took additional damage because they're OP. I think pillar bases and underwater bases need to just get the fuck out.
Yeah, you got to call Mesh Team 6 to kill that cave base, dude.
No, question, is meshing a thing in this game?
Yeah.
You keep asking this, dude. Are you like you're like ready for it? You're like, all right. Who's doing it and who can I talk to?
Nah, I mean, just curious.
I think we ran into a mesh bed, but I'm not sure from what company it was.
We did. So there's spots in islands that you can actually just whoop.
Yeah, they're all over the place, and they're trying to get rid of them one by one. As long as people report them, they go over there and try to fix it. From what I've seen, especially like when we attacked Idiocracy's flag base last season, the entire flag base was meshed into the top of the rock, and we had to call in an admin to come clear it out because there's nothing we could do. So if you come across it, you can literally just contact the admin or submit a ticket, and they'll come over pretty quickly and try to help you out or deal with it.
I think there are a lot of measurable areas because they just added a lot of new islands. I didn't see many last season, but with the new islands, I definitely found a few.
Have you guys seen any mesh raids? Like, has anyone got raided through the mesh? Is that not a thing in this game?
It hasn't happened yet.
I haven't seen it.
Not yet. It'll happen.
Yeah, so mission is really not that much of a problem in this game compared to like Ark and Jira. Because in Ark, like, you can just shoot a rocket through the
in the
mesh.
beginning of the game, wasn't aimbotting a thing though too, and it's no longer really a thing?
Haven't seen it yet this season, but I saw it a lot last season, coming and going from different companies. But I haven't seen it yet this season, at least.
Hopefully, we don't.
I hope it doesn't. But I think it's a good idea to make water. But how do you even calculate? Like, some people build in shallow water. Like how would you make like raiding water? Like, how do you get rid of this underwater bases? Because some people build their harbors underwater.
Can do it right now.
Yeah, they changed the way barrels work, so barrels can sink now, and they do quite a bit of damage to stone underwater.
So you can also grenade underwater. You just have to be outside of the water to grenade down. And there are torpedoes. I think the biggest issue with underwater bases is spotting them. That's so annoying, having to find them underwater, because who likes to swim around their island trying to find them, especially when it's in really deep water. I think that's one problem with underwater buildings. The other one is traps, ship traps. I don't know how much you guys had to deal with it in NA last season, but we had some enemies who would basically build ship traps all around their islands, and you couldn't drive a ship near their island. And just imagine losing the full mythical galleon to a wooden ceiling. How that feels. And I think that's the kind of stuff that makes you just want to quit the game when it happens. And I personally don't know how to fix it. I don't know, maybe you guys have some ideas.
I kind of feel like that just brings up a problem in general with the way ships take damage against just being, hitting a structure or hitting anything. Rather than stopping, most of the time they just clip into it and then spin around and get thrown all over the place. I kind of feel, I hope that that's a bug. I don't think it's very high on their priority list, but obviously players use that to the advantage, which I think is totally fine right now. I don't feel like that's exploiting at all. I think that's
no. I'm not calling exploits.
No. Of course not. Of course not.
I do it myself.
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna make traps all around the enemy island as well if I
get
absolutely.
The chance to. I mean, we've been able to trap in galleys and sink them just because they can't move. And again, I don't know that that's the way that it's intended to be. I feel like if you're sinking a ship, you should either be doing it with cannons or mortars or via boarding, not with ceiling tiles. But I feel like if you hit a ceiling tile, maybe your ship should just kind of like stop and then maybe capsize or something, rather than just flip out of control.
Building
maybe
pillars
they should just
up from
reduce
the
the
ocean.
damage you take from just.
Well, that's the thing. Building pillars up from the ocean floor and putting ceilings on top of them. What's the point of it? It's to keep somebody from coming into an area you want to protect. So does the ship really need to take damage from it, or is it already doing its job by stopping you from going where you're trying to go?
Well, the problem is there are certain constructions. It's pretty hard to explain, but there are certain underwater constructions that your ship gets stuck in, and you get pushed in between the underwater construction, and the island, and you can never escape from it again. We've had situations where boats would be anchored in the middle of the island because they keep spinning around. So they get dragged into the island, basically. And there's nothing you can do once it starts. And having to have someone on your ship, K-camming down underneath the ship to make sure, your mythical galleon doesn't fall into one of these traps, just not a very fun thing to play around. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know how to fix it unless they either reduce collision with structures underwater, which makes harbor entrances really strange, because that's another
Yeah.
issue with underwater structures. Like if people leave their harbor during their combat phase, some people, at least this happened in EU, they would just put a couple layers of ceilings in their harbor entrance, and they just wouldn't leave their harbor during combat phase. And that's pretty much, I don't know, it kind of makes you unraidable, or the harbor unrunnable, let me put it that way.
I feel like harbor runs in general are something that need to stop. I mean, I get it. You bring a galleon, it's cool, you sink everything, great. But I mean, you're not fighting actual ships, right?
Most of
doing
the
that
time
just
you
to
are.
run Well, I mean, needless to say, you're going into the harbor to go blow up as much as you can. I know that you'll unanchor and you'll try and take it out, or maybe have boat towers, whatever. I feel like obviously ship traps, I don't like them either. You do your rakes, and fact of the matter is you get clipped into it and you're fucked. You have the Behe Gate entrance where you can whistle the NPC that'll close on your galley, and then your galley is basically done. Again, I feel like that's really clever use of boat mechanics, or excuse me, a really clever use of ship or game mechanics. But I think if they were to adjust the way structures worked underwater, be that with collision or maybe taking less damage, but then also maybe give a second tier of anchor buff. Maybe if you're anchored for 24 hours, maybe the ship takes even less damage to kind of disincentivize those harbor runs. I don't really
Do you
know.
think people would stop using their ships then? They knew they would lose the anchor buff. Do you think people would sail less?
I think
There's
so.
potential for that, absolutely.
I think it should also be looked at like SDC ran Sov's Harbor, and they did a really good job of eliminating a large naval force in the PCA and holding them back and putting a stunt in their growth. And Dolly and the Grape Shot in general made it very clear by retweeting the videos and commenting saying, look at smaller companies. If you have a effective and well executed attack, you can take out a megas, so to speak, quote unquote, even though I don't think there are megas anymore. But you could take out a large company's full naval force and really cripple them by having a well organized 20-man attack. And they definitely promoted it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I don't want to get rid of harbor runs. Honestly, like it's just part of the game. I mean, I think you need to build better, but I do agree with like the structure problem with like the ceiling tiles making your ship dance. That's what happened to our first galleon in season 2 with shallow water actually dancing across the island. Yeah, it was not fun. It was not fun. It was funny, but it was not fun.
I mean, if you're talking about giving smaller companies the ability to cripple larger companies, just put C4 in the game.
Yeah, I mean, like small companies like should worry about other things. Like, it's a building game, and like that's the thing is like, I do believe in like living on a free port for smaller companies. This game just has no casual play whatsoever. But like, it just kind of it's stupid if you like a company. I mean, I guess they lowered the ship cap. And so you can only have 40 boats. But like back in the day, I mean, like you had 130 boats in your harbor, and that company could just continually roll boats out forever and then get them sunk by Handsome Stalin. But I don't know. I don't want to get rid of them. I'll say that.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't want to get rid of them. I think the issue is that the amount of like resources you need to put into harbor defense is a little bit overwhelming, especially when you have to deal with like harbor runs and ground units, and then eventually we'll see dragons running through your harbor unless you put a couple of good amount of ballistas. But like the amount of like resources you have to put into like harbor defense is, I don't know, I think it's just a little bit too much. Like,
I mean, dragons really don't do shit, to be honest.
Dragons are fucking garbage. Just say it.
They're just there purely for logistics in raids. That's all N3's ever used them for. You bring grenades from point A to point B, you bring structures from point A to point B to fob up, and then eventually it dies. That's all it's good for. And honestly, I think it's in the right place. I don't think it should be buffed whatsoever.
I think it should be buffed. think
What about
the
a actual?
dragons-
Oh, sorry. Oh,
I
ahead,
think dragons right now are the only answer, and a pretty bad answer, for these sky bases, like on top of a pillar. The only way you're gonna get up there is with the dragon. And they either have to, fulfill their promise of getting flags to reachable areas, or above dragons, one or the other.
I don't think they have a solution for pillar bases yet, right? Like pillar bases is just where most people put their flag and their main base in general, right? With all the resources.
They started working on
No.
a solution last season, and they
Yeah.
had this build height thing. If they could figure out a way to a more plausible way to incorporate that into the game, I think it would be great. And nobody likes pillar bases.
You know what I'd
Nobody.
love to see? Like I'm not sure what it's called, but like in the Lord of the Rings, on like the Return of the King, they had this mobile towers that the golems would push into the wall of the Minas Tirith, and like the unit would just the orbs would just come out of that tower. Would you
mean
like
like
to see something? I would like to see something like that. Where I could just like
A siege
push
tower?
a siege tower. Why not?
No.
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 It's too tall, man. Have you seen some of the pillars in this
Why
game?
not?
You know, the northeast, they're insanely high.
Sky-based boats, dude. Hell yeah, dude. Let's do it.
No. I don't think flying or something like a siege tower is the
Fuck
answer.
it, dude.
They've
Quetzals,
already
dude. Let's
said
go.
they've already said that they want to put the flags in reachable locations. And right now, the only problem, as far as I know, is the implementation. Because they made the change, they announced the change that the flag now has a maximum height, and then they noticed, okay, this change does not fix the problem for all the islands, maybe the majority, but not all of them. So they undid the change. There was also a lot of kickback from players, of course. And as far as I know, they are looking at ways of still enforcing that maximum flag height. It's just really, really tough for them to do so because the islands are so different. So as far as I know, they're checking it manually now, where an acceptable flag location is, and that's just going to take a while.
Yeah, I think this is a change that can't be implemented in mid-season. I mean, like everyone's built on a pillar right now. Like,
Nope.
it's it would just be awful. I mean, to like move everyone's like main base off of a pillar mid-season, like it'd be too unforgiving right now.
Ours is on the ground, our main base.
I will comment and say, like, most companies that would rather not get their shit attacked are building bases on pillars because they're safer. It's the smartest thing to do if you want to protect your shit. Throw a bunch of puckles up and swivels around a pillar, a bunch of dragon's teeth around the edge of it, and it's easy clap. It's super fucking hard to rate it. And these jackasses in SDC are encouraging anybody to come hit them by just keeping the flag on the fucking ground with the main base and all the tames and everything. Everything's on the ground, saying like, "Come get us." I have not seen that from anybody else yet so far this season, other than people maybe a little less.
You're talking about yourself right now, right?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're
Did you
the only
forget your
ones.
SDC?
Alpha.
We're the only ones that
Alpha as
have
fuck.
a flag on the beach. Like, we're the only ones doing it.
I mean, we're just ready for the change, right? The max flag height is coming at
I
some point. We're
suppose,
just
I
ready for the
suppose.
change, living in the future.
I think all flags should be on the beach, honestly. They should have to touch water, be close to the beach. It just would make the game more fun.
So people can just swim in the water and contest.
No
your-
submarine.
No,
submarine
stop that from
contest.
happening. Stop that from happening. Make it so submarines and shit like that can contest. I don't just put them on ground level. Some sort of height. They had the right thing going in last season, and
Like I said, I
was
think
I
they're
don't
working
know
on it,
about that.
and maybe we'll get an update soon on the situation with the flags. Because right now, like, we raided an island. What was it? 2 days ago, in K4, which has the highest pillar in the game, like the highest natural pillar in the game, and the flag was on top of it, and they didn't have any defense up there because I guess they were too lazy to bring NPCs up. Those types of pillars are completely unraidable right now, unless you push way too many resources into. Like, if you bring multiple dragons, you might be able to clear the pillar. So I think they are aware that some people are living on the pillar, playing PvE because they cannot get touched, and I think it is going to get changed at some point.
I'd really
I
love
hope
to
so.
have a conversation with the level design management because that's like, I mean, you're talking about a game where you're doing ship PvP and now you just put a fucking base on a pillar. How do you not think players are going to use that to their advantage? And then now you have this massive issue where 99% of your islands have an unreachable platform, and now you have to then dedicate additional resources to something that could have been avoided entirely by having someone competent enough to just not put pillars that you can't climb
I
up.
don't think that's fair because you have to keep in mind when they made those islands, they had a very different claim system. And in that claim system, the big pillars were actually a pretty big disadvantage because you had to defend every single one of them. Because in season 1, somebody could just climb up that pillar, placed on a flag, or the entire company places a flag at once, and you don't know where you're losing land. And then suddenly, you have this red dot on your highest pillar, and there's a dude sitting there with his mortar mortaring your main. So when the levels were designed or the islands were designed, this was a very different situation. So I don't think it's fair to give them shit for that now that this issue has come up.
I mean, is it bad to make it hard to raid somebody? I mean, that's kind of been the meta since like season 1, is that like it's hard to wipe people. Well, actually, okay, in season 2, in season 1 you could wipe people fairly easily, but now like in season 2, the meta was just grief them until they no longer want to live there. Like just sink all their boats every single day. Just make them, if they come off the pillar, they die. I mean, like, is that bad to like have people be able to protect their stuff?
I think the islands are pretty unbalanced because of it.
Yeah, true, but
I still like my idea of siege towers. Just put couple cannons on the top of the siege tower. You have your pillar base. I would just siege your
Dude,
pillar tower.
have
with
you
my
seen the
siege
highest
tower.
pillars? Have you seen the highest pillars in this
Yeah, let me
game?
make a really tall siege
He
tower.
lives on one. He's TPG. They've got some of
I
the
live on
tallest
one,
pillars
yeah.
in the game.
Oh,
man.
I can see a TPG island from our new island.
Oh, I know. It's a pretty good view.
Yeah, it looks pretty smart from up there,
Yeah.
Can I come over
they
and
need
look?
to. They need to. I don't think
Yeah, absolutely.
forcing people to not live on pillars would be the solution. I think, for me, the better balance would be to give you a counter to pillar bases. Give us something, a structure, a unit, or a ship, or something that counters pillar bases, or allow you to siege pillar bases. Like maybe like a trebuchet. You put trebuchets on the ground, you siege that freaking pillar base from the ground. Something like that.
A trebuchet would be cool. I've been talking about that since season 1. Adding a trebuchet that could do heavy damage to stone structures of the sort. I think that would be something cool that could be added to the game. But we're talking about pillars that are insanely high. The only way I could see is if they added flying tames to the game or made dragons cheaper and more effective. That's the only outcome I see from your point of view. Where attacking it rather than reducing the height that you can build on.
Why do you need trebuchets if there's mortars already? Like you could just re-enable mortar meta. Like personally, I thought it was great because it forced people from turtling inside their bases.
No, because
like
if
they
you
had to go out and get the mortar.
Because if you allow people to place, and the enemy player to place a mortar, that would just allow people to just grief. Just you can sneak a mortar and just like destroy all the stuff. But if you just like have to build a trebuchet or have to build a trebuchet with your boat, and you know that trebuchet is coming, maybe that could allow that would be a little more dynamic than just like sneaking a mortar and just like griefing people with that mortar. I don't know.
Well, I mean, kind of the fix for that was that the mortars render at really long distances, so you can see it. Like in most raids, if you put a mortar down, someone will see it and someone will blow it up, or at least attempt to blow it up as soon as they can.
Or if a mortar alerted you that a mortar was placed in your island, if you have that island, and then you can actually counter that because it has like a 20-minute cooldown before it can actually be used or some shit like that. It's just like bears counter, but it announces it, and you know it's there. You got to find it. But yeah, I don't know.
That'd be interesting change for sure.
Yeah.
Allow you to place them, but you're alerted. It's like anything else. You're just alerted that it's in your area, and they have to defend it.
But wouldn't that
That'd be
go
sick,
back
actually.
to like the flag spam from season 1? You just like bring like 20 guys with mortars on their inventory, just naked, or like
Yeah, you got
have
20 minutes to find that shit, motherfucker. Like, go find them.
no,
I think they should just get marked on the map.
Yeah,
If there's
that's what I was
water
gonna
gets
say.
marked on the map, somebody picks it up again, the marker gets removed. I think that would be a really good solution to it. but I'm not sure if I want mortars on combat phase islands. I think there should definitely be a thing if you war token someone. And as far as I know, they when they introduced the war token, they said that you could place mortars, but it hasn't worked since. So I think that's the only time I want to see mortar land PvP in an offensive way.
All right, moving on. What do you guys think about, really quickly, on the changes to Plague? Was that good? Was that was necessary?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good change.
I don't know. I wasn't here for the original plague, so I don't know. Seems like there's nothing about it now.
Yeah, I haven't
I
seen
think
it even being used.
I think the plague to start with, when it was its older form to start with, it was could have been a way to grieve capably and whatnot, but it really, I got affected with it on a boat, and everybody on my boat got affected with it, and none of us died. Like, none of us. It wasn't that big of a deal to start with. But it's like whatever, it's like the torpedoes. They brought out the torpedoes, like, holy shit, torpedoes are fucking crazy. And a week later, it's like, all right, torpedoes are completely useless now. We might as well take them out of the game.
I still see torpedoes being used a little bit, but it's not that great. I think.
Not really.
They have a
They're
very
way too
niche use.
expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive and very, very situational.
Like, do you think that you just buff them again, or just keep them the way they are?
I think you could reduce the cost ever so slightly, but they'd have to be very careful with it because torpedoes are a very, very powerful ammunition. Though they are heavy and everything, they introduce so many nerfs all at once. And I think they could make a slight adjustment. I think would be okay to make them just a little bit more common.
I'd like them to come back personally. Like, we didn't get enough time to have fun with it for the week that it was out before they basically killed it. They should nerf the damage a little bit from what it was originally and make it a little cheaper to cost. But,
Do you like it in ship PvP though?
At first, it was scary as hell. And then when I fought somebody that had torpedoes and used them against me, I was like, holy shit, this is really cool, actually. One of his torpedoes, he was on a journeyman and masterwork boat. And one of his torpedoes hit my mythic brig and popped 2 planks on it from one torpedo. It's like, that's a pretty cool way to counter a boat that's a lot stronger. And I think that with the way resistance is and everything now, and all the boats are so strong, like, maybe, yeah, torpedoes are slow as shit. It's a really tough shot to take. A player has to shoot it. They're not easy to use. So why not buff the damage and play around with it a little bit and see what could happen?
Did you have ship PvP before they added the arm time? It takes like 2 seconds before it actually deals damage. I don't know exactly how long. 2 or 3 seconds, I'm not sure.
Yeah, between 4 and 6 seconds is when it'll do the most damage. But if it hits before the 4 seconds, it doesn't do a whole lot.
I think that's what killed it in the end.
I agree.
Like ship versus ship. And I think the scaling, as far as I know, it scales with chip damage, like the skill points you put into damage.
Yep.
So I think that would have to get balanced for sure. And I'm not even sure if I like it in ship versus ship because I think there's enough going on there already. I think it should definitely be buff versus underwater structures. Like, that's one of the things that a lot of people are looking answers for, the underwater structures. I think that would be nice. It would deal more damage to stone structures.
But again, if they were to do that with them, they'd have to make them cheaper because a stone structure comparatively to a torpedo is...
it's ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really hoping they add new cannon, some of the type of cannons, or
you could. I know one of my buddies is gonna love me for saying this, but you could just give torpedoes to submarines, but they only damage other submarines because I'm sure not a lot of people realize,
Submarine
but there's
PvP?
actually, there's actually no way for submarines to damage each other other than bumping into each other. So, might be interesting dynamic.
So I was thinking earlier, what about a structure? So this kind of fixes the harbor building and building underwater thing. What about a structure that specifically for harbor building, like something that floats on top of the water or something that is specifically for water, and you can't place other structures into the water other than like this or 2 or 3 other structures. What about that?
I completely agree. Harbor defense is one of the most difficult things to do in this game when you have to build up from the water. So if they added something to make that easier or a more viable way,
I think he's
I think it
talking about banning underwater structures, so to speak, and adding one floatable structure. So you could
Well,
still build
yeah.
on the water, but you couldn't get stuck on ceilings anymore. I think it's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah, I'm completely agree.
Where you at, Jet?
Hmm.
But wouldn't that make people make like floating bases in a way? If like based on a type of structure.
I mean, you could limit what you can add onto it.
What if they
Yeah,
just
right.
add like a barge to the game, like a floating barge that you have to connect to land or something, and you can link it across, and then put like a little gate in the middle where you could just enter and exit, just like we do with levers to open doors. Instead, is a floating barge that you make out of smithy, like you make everything else in this game, and you just go place it in the water and link them together, or something kind of like a train track or train cars. You just link them together.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I
mean,
could definitely see some harbor type structures. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But then you'd have to address the stone underwater structures more directly.
Yeah. I definitely think you should be able to put boxes underwater. It's kind of piratey. Put a box underwater. I don't think that's too bad. Like season 2, people were building unrateable underwater structures on our islands, so far down that you literally couldn't kill them with grenades or explosive barrels. So back to the meshing discussion earlier. That's essentially, like on par with meshing. Like you're literally making an unrateable base that's like a very low effort. But I think the structure, like the harbor structure, would be really good. And like if you wanted to make more harbor structures, you could just line them back to back to back to back. So if you wanted to put the mats into it, you can make it stronger, just like how people have more or less unrateable harbors right now.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. Before I do open table, what do you guys think about? I personally have a problem with this one. Like the double rates, like gold and taming. Should that happen all the time? Because I feel like that was a problem in Arc when like they would give us times 2 all the time, and that just made the game remove a lot of the like. Sometimes the raid would take weeks or months, and now, at least compared to that game here, where you have like something where it gives me gold times 2 gold every weekend. I feel like it devalues gold in general, or some in this game.
What I see happening with the 2 times rates is everybody feels like they have to farm over the weekend rather than go out and have fun. Obviously, the most player base happens. People are off work on the weekends, and instead of going out and sailing your ship, they're just sitting at home on their elephant smacking trees. What if they introduced maybe 1.5 during the week and 2 times gold during the weekend? Then you have map boats going out and you encourage more ship stuff, things like that.
Wait, do you guys do maps for gold?
I mean, you could just farm it on the
I
power stone.
I
but
personally think they should just get rid of it. Like, I don't know, it helps bigger companies more than it does the little guys, so to speak. And a lot of this game is revolved around trying to equal out the little guys to the big
I
ones.
think it
but
helps both equally, though, doesn't it? They both get 2
It
eggs.
does, yeah, it does. But
Yeah.
I personally just think they should just get rid of
I
it.
don't,
Maybe
I
on a
don't think
holiday.
the 2x gold
something.
matters at all. Like, who actually has gold problems?
The little guy.
The little
Yeah.
guy. He has to do like 2 or 3 maps, and his island is paid for, and his NPCs are paid for like a month. I mean, we have like, I don't know, 700k gold sitting in our resource box. We don't know what the fuck to do with it.
Oh shit, dude! Let me guess some. Plug it, dude.
I think it comes. I think it comes back to is like we know the meta and like how to get gold, whereas these small guys like don't know how. And like if they do one, if they're gonna be on for like an hour, they're not gonna go do 3 maps and like figure out where the map is and different things like that. They want to go hit like a few shipwrecks and be like, man, like I only had to farm for an hour and I'm good for the next week.
Yeah, but even shipwrecks are like 2k gold an hour at least. You just
Yeah.
farm shipwrecks.
But if you're a
And
casual,
an island costs like what? For a smaller group, an island would cost like 200 to 300 gold every 24 hours. And then
Yeah.
there's people. Then you have tags, and people are doing maps on your island. Like our islands even pay for themselves. We don't even have to worry about it. I think right now the 2x gold. I don't think it's a problem. There's way too much gold in the game, regardless of having 2x gold. And the best way to farm gold right now is not even affected by 2x gold.
What
Right.
about 2x gathering?
I mean, I personally think it devalues 5 days of the week by having, or instead of incentivizing 2 days. I don't think it's good overall for the game. But
That's the 2x I'm referring to that needs to go. The gathering.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good
hope,
idea.
I really hope they're doing these events because they have some sort of data that should suggest that it increases player retention, which is something none of us here know. Like maybe they actually figured out that if they do this 2x stuff on the weekend and the alternating gold XP and harvesting and whatnot, if that actually increases player retention, I want them to keep doing it. But that's something that none of us here know. I mean, and if they have that data, they should keep doing it. Otherwise, I'd prefer it if they maybe increase the baseline farm rates by 1/3, which would be like the average if you remove the 2x system.
I think I don't know about you guys, but on 2x weekends, I see a ton of people out there in small, shitty ships. But I mean, it gives them a chance to at least build something. It's not going to really do a crazy amount to the people that it doesn't do anything to the effect you have to travel far to grab the rare resource to build whatchamacallits, I guess, like anything bigger. But yeah, of course, it's going to increase retention. Anything where you give somebody the ability to build a boat faster, people are going to log in and build a boat faster, and they're going to float around on it.
Yeah, but don't you think that during the week people are less likely to log in because it's not 2x? That's kind of what I'm saying.
Of course, but you take away the 2x on the weekends, then people are less likely to log in then too. They're just going to fizzle out. At least those events, it brings back somebody that may or gives somebody a chance to come back and on the weekends when they can't play. That's always been a problem, like the casual players versus the working players. So all these people work. There's little groups of here and there's that are like 5 people that work, or they all work together, or blah 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 blah. You know, and they play during the week, but the weekends when they really grind their games, and that's when you're going to get the most video game players in general. So yes, you're pulling in the casuals. It doesn't affect. I don't think it affects the big groups as much. It really, really strongly affects the small ones. So if you really want to play it to, any kind of standard, I think the small groups are the ones that actually benefit from it. Yes, we all get, tons of farming, tons of this, tons of that. We get that either way. We're going to scale way harder than them either way. But at least gives them a chance to build something faster than, they normally could. And it'll make them farm a little bit more for that weekend. So
yeah. So during the week when they only have like an hour or two to play, they don't have to farm. Like they don't have to log on and just sit there and smack a tree. They can do that on the weekend when they have more time. So when they, just get off work, they want to play for an hour or whatever before, dinner's ready. They can go and play, and they can go, sink a ship or two and then come home. They don't have to worry about hitting trees.
I think you guys are underestimating. So all these small groups, they're not going to ever grow into a big, successful group. That's not the point of them. The point of them is to get on the game and be on the game long enough to meet somebody that is in a large group so they can join one, ally up, start building, find more players. It's not to allow these small groups to get on and really go hard. I think the biggest way to balance these kind of games is to allow people to get on and play longer so they do have the ability to possibly join or ally. Because they're never going to do anything in a small group. We all know this. They're going to get raided easily. They're going to get fobbed up easily. Even if they start to build up, if they have a small group, there's no way they can handle somebody that actually raids their island. If we want an island and they're on it, we're gonna take it. It's not that hard, but it gives them a chance to actually meet more people and potentially ally up or potentially tribe up with a bigger group. When they get raided, they're gonna join that group they've been talking to about resource farming or taxing or whatever it was for a while. That's how ARC tribes get supplemented. Small groups that have been playing on your server for a while. Oh, you got raided. Oh, my bad. Just join us. Boom. You have more players. They have a tribe. Win-win. More population.
Yeah, agreed.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay.
What about the fact that we haven't seen any 2 times XP yet this season?
Do we need it?
I don't
We don't.
I don't think we need
But
it.
Wait, how do you get past level 51?
discoveries.
Oh, all right. I'll work on
Dude, what level are you right now?
53.
Okay.
Ooh,
That's
man, I
That's
thought
good, right? Right? Wait, what?
I'm level 60, man, and I thought I was way behind.
No, I think
haven't played much.
I'm spite not PVE because I got this one fucking cunt that only PVEs and he used to be a PvPer all the time. So it doesn't even come out with us now. It's like, I'm doing fucking power stones, dude. I'm like,
No, I think there's some players on level 100, right? Like they're getting close to the 120s at the moment.
Over.
I'm over level 100.
well over, dude. Well over.
Okay, yeah.
I got the 40% discoveries today for the instant equip.
Like, do you think the
And I'm level
levels?
1 or 2.
Do you think the levels that we have in the game right now for players is just too much? Like, once you see level 150 players, do you think that's just gonna be too overwhelming for like the game in general?
I think with the HP cap, they solved a lot of the issues with the power gap between like a level 80 and a level 130 players, as an example. Last season, a lot of the, especially 130 plus, they had a huge advantage over the level 80s or 90s because of the torpor meta. They would just skill into fortitude. Like I would be running around with 130 fortitude without the vitamin buff, just so I can't get knocked out. And I would knock
On
out all
top
these.
of like 500 health.
No, not 500, but more like 200 health. Because I didn't need it. I would just knock everyone out. And, they would try to knock me out, but I had too much fortitude to get knocked out. So that's why in last season it mattered a lot what your level was. Now, since it's basically just about HP, since, we're talking about actual damage now, not torpor. And a level 80 can reach 300 HP, right? If you put everything into HP. And getting to level 80 is a joke. So I don't think it's that important to get to 150. And I think for most players, for the vast majority of players, even if we don't wipe within the next year, getting to level 150 is not feasible. Getting to level 150 by in common ways of doing maps or just generally playing the game, it's gonna take you 1,000+ hours easily to get to 150, which I don't know how many people achieved this last season in a legit way. And the only way I see to do it right now is to farm the cave. And if you farm the cave with a big group and you don't get contested and you have 2x running, you're still looking at around 200 hours of gameplay, which is a lot.
Effectively, now you're gonna see people being able to carry 100 game grenades when they're level 150. They're gonna have a lot of carry weight, a lot of stamina.
Which is not that
300
big
health.
deal.
No,
Like when does
I
it
don't
actually
think
come
so.
into play that you're carrying 60 grenades instead of 30? It doesn't come into
It's
play.
much better than Van last season be able to get 800 health on the NA servers. Like people running around with legendary mythic gear 800 health was just ridiculous.
And then you get knocked out in one hit.
No, I mean they still had a lot of fortitude too, also. But
Okay.
Let's face it, if you're getting knocked out with a mace, you did something wrong, or you let him bola you. So you kind of deserve to get knocked out if you get bolaed.
Hmm.
But even if you're getting, one hit torpid, I mean, you can still tank defenses like it's nothing and just walk through like the Terminator.
Yeah, it was insane. Puckles were useless against legendary gear and 800 health.
Pacos are still kind of useless. They're not like I think a lot of people just don't reload. I at least I noticed that some people just don't reload their Pacos before they place an NPC. So like, why is my Paco not shooting? Because you didn't reload it before you put the NPC, stuff like that. I would like to see. I don't think they should change static defense. Like I hope they don't ever make it like Arc where like you have like auto turret that just can shoot explosive a grenade to destroy, because then that would just make bases unreadable. But I'm not a fan of like Pacos being able to be destroyed that easily either. Maybe just I personally at least buff the Paco HP a bit or something like that.
I mean, let's be real here. The second that 50 people log into a server, Puggles don't even work anyways. So what's even the point?
That's because there's no turret limit, or they just the service just can, or just the service just bad. They can't really register that many players.
Yeah, well, I think they fired the first time, and then once it actually goes into the reload, it's just over. It just doesn't do anything anymore.
So same as when the server is at 255 ping and you try to reload a carbine. So I think it's the same thing. It just takes a lot longer because the server is so many ticks behind.
Do you think they should have like another static defense in that case to or?
I mean, that's just render or server lag that
Right.
they have to get under control, which they're trying to get under control. Like if you compare performance now to performance back in January, the game is improving a lot in that department. When we rated SOV, when was it? Like 1.5 weeks ago. Considering that there were 180 players in the server and the amount of spam on the island, it actually worked pretty well, and pockets worked as well. So I think we're getting somewhere with the static defense. I don't think it's that big of an issue because then the scenario in which pockets are not working is when there are a lot of people on the server, so there's people defending. So in that case, it doesn't matter that the pockets are not shooting. I think pockets getting griefed is probably a bigger issue. And last season, I don't know if you guys had it on NA, but on EU, everybody was using a pocket design, which basically made pockets immune to damage. They would be hidden behind a wooden roof, and you would have to destroy the wooden roof before you destroyed the pocket, because the pocket was basically shooting through the wooden roof. And so we kind of saw what would happen if they made pockets really tanky, and nobody liked it. It was a disaster.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I agree.
How they can. I guess they just need to add more performance to the service. Talking about performance, is there any quality of life stuff that you guys would like to see? Since I'm getting to things that.
Yeah, let me put vegetables in a silo, please.
You can't put them in the silo now?
No, just berries.
Just berries, yeah.
I mean, they should, in my opinion, any food should be able to go in the silo. Anything that they eat.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see mining carts. So have zip lines? Let me put a mining cart on a zip line and just have an NPC with a lever. Just move that mining cart, whatever resources I have that mining cart, just take to my base, because that would be nice. Or a train system. Let me just give me a train. I'm pretty sure they can add that into the game. They kind of have that on
Fucking A, Dolphin.
I would like to see that.
I love trains.
Siege towers, trains, what else do you
Yeah,
want?
dude. I want to see I want to see some crazy stuff. I want to see animals. The last thing I want to see on the next community crunch is, hey, here guys, this is what we're doing, but here is a new animal. That would piss so many people off. They just give me a new animal. I want to see something completely different that's not arc related, in my opinion.
A boat. More boats. There you go.
More boats.
Not arc related.
I think
More
there are a
reason to
lot
be
of
on the
quality
sea.
of life things that could be added right now, which would improve the game a lot. Just as a quick example, backing up a boat. Who here likes to go backwards? With
Yeah, I
their
would
boat?
like to see boats.
Takes 20 minutes to park a galleon.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying, to be honest with you. They can
Yeah.
speed up that process.
I think the game is actually at a really good point. I really don't have too many complaints about quality of life right now. It seems like it's not bad right now. In my opinion, I don't know.
I don't know. I think I run into a situation in which some islands don't have enough resources. There's some tiles in the tree area, number 3, and that don't have enough metal, or they don't have enough.
J3?
Well, J3 doesn't have enough metal in certain spots, right? There's only one spot where we found metal. It's not that great. And there's I3 has the same issue, and some of the other ones that have that problem, where I feel like they need to.
I think a lot of islands are unbalanced right now with the resources. If you look at all the new islands they added last season, which are in the equatorial grid, the one in the middle, number 8, those are very rich in resources. Just most of the islands don't have a good natural harbor or anything, and they're not in a very good position. like close to Golden Age, but the resources on those islands are insane. And I think some of the older islands need to get looked at, like, especially in terms of metal nodes, but also some other things.
Yeah, I feel like some of the, I think they just got lazy on some of the islands. Like you compare maybe like for example, for me, A4, or I think it's D4, that big island has a castle at the top.
Oh, the biggest
Yeah,
island in the game. That's
yeah.
A4.
The,
Like,
the
I would-
Northwest A4 Island.
Yeah, like I would love to see like more islands like that have like a lot of detail put into them. So just like you look at my J3 island, it's just like just slap 2 mountains and there you go. I feel like they need to eventually rework some of those islands because they're just.
I mean, the entire A row has a lot of effort into it. The most discovery points are in the A row, I believe, except for the polar region, and they have a lot of these RP buildings, or these natural buildings outside of Freeport, which the others don't really have. Some of the new islands did get some of those, but to me it always seemed like when they started making the game, they started out with the A row, and then when they got to B, they kind of got lazy, because they figured out how many grids they still have to make. That's what it kind of feels like. I don't know if that's true or not.
I think it is true.
Yeah.
They even
Yeah.
have some special soundtrack, I think, for the entire A row. I think it has.
I think they
different
based the
music
whole
playing in
trailer
B
on
row.
the arrow. To be honest, like some of the.
Does anybody think that you should be allowed to have 25 allies?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Well, if you think about it, like think about, okay, you have a large island just all full of X-Bobs, and there's like 20 companies there. Like, you gotta ally everyone, right? If there's only like groups of 4, so it's just like it comes down to people are gonna spreadsheet alliance anyways. Like, what are they really
Yeah.
stopping?
There's no way you're stopping people from doing this. Just saying, okay, we won't shoot each other. And then, if you remove spyglasses, they will all start wearing red hats, to identify themselves. There's no way you can artificially stop people from allying each other. So I think the limit itself is pretty pointless.
Yeah.
Well.
I,
I suppose.
yeah. I honestly hope that they do give those a new type of bow. At least they show something like. Do you know where the next community crunch is going to be? So they have a general idea.
What's the community crunch?
My bad. I don't know what they call it in Atlas, but they give us a preview of what's coming on the next meta.
Community crunch, dude.
My bad. I don't know what it's called.
What a
I'm
dinosaur
sorry.
gamer, dude. What a fucking
God,
gamer,
I'm still in this
dude.
art mentality. I'm sorry.
Get on your
Captain's
basilisk,
log.
you Bob. What the fuck?
Captain's log, you mean? But
Yes,
Captain's
exactly,
Captain's
exactly,
logs
exactly.
don't
That's what I
always
meant.
tell you what's coming up next. Sometimes they just talk about the game, like without spoiling too much stuff.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
I mean,
I
how long has it
wouldn't
been
mind
since
a
the
new
last
one.
one?
When was the last one?
The Ramshackle sloop? Oh, you mean the last Captain's log?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
People have just been enjoying the game and not even worrying about it.
Yeah. I just want to hear
Yeah,
something new.
pretty much.
Like, talk about Power Stones. Like really quickly. Like
September
from
26th,
what I
by the way.
noticed, like Power Stones are like the only way for some people to get PvP. Like you have like people just going to do Power Stones or farm BPs. Do you think they should add like kind of like another tile or island system that encourages people to go to that particular tile? Like,
Oh, you're talking about Golden Age ruins,
Yeah,
farming the
Golden
ship
Age
of the
ruins.
damned. Yes.
This kind of comes back to the entire topic of redesigning or reorienting the map. So
Right.
you push people into areas and then you focus that so content is not so spread out. You don't have someone over in 015 and the other person like like H6 or something. You have to travel all the way across the map just to get to PvP. Again, that kind of becomes more of a problem as less player base happens, which is another topic in itself. But I feel like absolutely there should be areas that they encourage people to go to for PvP. For example, like let's say there was a world event Kraken that didn't have a barrier. You go to the Kraken and you get some really cool drops if you participate. Well, maybe somebody gets a really cool item and then SDC rolls up and sinks everybody. That's cool PvP. That's a world event. Something to incentivize that. I think it'd be really fun.
Agreed.
I think
Well,
one of the easiest way to implement what you just said is just to make Kraken and Ice Cave a weekly quest that gives rewards, either BPs or armor or just a lot of experience. I think right now, especially the Ice Cave, once you've done it, it's dead content. You're not going back
Absolutely.
there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to go back there to get. I think it gives like 7,000 experience. I'm not driving to N15 or whatever it is to get 7,000 experience, and I'm not going to go there for the 2k gold either. And I feel like they put so much effort into this ice cave, which looks really nice. Like I know someone actually put a lot of work into that. And I feel like the developer that made the ice cave spent more time in the ice cave than the actual players, because it's like you go there once, you're done after an hour, and you never go there again. Like there's no incentive to go
Yeah,
there again.
it would be really nice if they had some replayability to that particular cave. Or
Yeah, and that's also something that ties into player retention, right? If you have something like the Ice Cave version 1, version 2, or Kraken version 1, version 2 be something repeatable, it would be more like a raid, like another MMO aspect, or something that you can do every single week. And it would also fix the issue. I don't know if you guys had it on NA, but on EU, I saw someone looking for the Kraken version 2 group, the Hard Kraken, on the official Discord. And I saw him looking for a group for 2 weeks. It was like mid-August. And nobody was doing the hard Kraken because all the players have already done it. So
We
he
need
could never get it
incentive to
done.
go back and do it more. You need
Yeah,
incentive
like
to.
if it was on a weekly cycle, you would know at least every 4 weeks or whatever, they could find a group to go to Kraken V2 or to go to the Ice Cave again. So I
Yeah,
think
kinda,
that there needs to be replayability of this content, and if they do it with a weekly quest, or if they start adding drops to it, which might make it a bit dangerous if one company, let's say SDC, camps the cave, the ice cave, and we just do it over and over again. We don't let anyone else do it. So
you can only do
I
it
think
once
it's
a
gonna be
week.
one time a week thing. I think
Just like raiding and WoW, you get your character, you got to do the raid every, the newest raid or whatever. You got to do it at least once a week to try and get your gear. They could implement something very similar. There's an incentive, there's a reason to do it every week.
Your drops.
Maybe a reason to.
yeah, that'd be really cool
Yeah.
if they had
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Some
That's also a good
regulated,
way-
but
That's
some
also
drops.
a good way to get smaller companies gear without having a crafter. Also, if
Yeah.
it was dropping good gear, I mean, you didn't have to have someone specking intelligence.
so you would want it to drop gear rather than blueprints, or both?
Yeah,
I mean, it could drop.
that would be a good.
It
I don't
could
see
drop-
I don't see anyone have a problem with like just something that's weekly, weekly event where you can do the escape and just get gear out of it.
Well, with the nerf to intellect, it could be blueprint drops. It's the same for everybody, basically. Just breed crows and look for a dolphin buff. I mean, nobody's really that much different. Farm XP, I guess, but yeah,
Well,
blueprint drops would be.
Blueprints are nice and everything. I feel like if you have actual items that you can pick up, that also cuts down on a lot of the playtime that you have to invest in farming for exotic materials to bring them back to your base in order to craft it.
Yeah, it helps.
Something
a
that
lot,
I would
yeah.
feel would be very nice for both the Kraken and the Ice Cave is the ability to make a group without having to ally them. Because I think for smaller groups, that's a really big issue right now. Like I would want smaller groups to come to the Ice Cave with us, but I don't want to ally them just to do the Ice Cave. So maybe have like a group system where you could go do the Ice Cave together. I think that would be really interesting. Or like a temporary alliance that lasts for a couple of hours, and it's only specific to the Kraken fight or the Ice Cave fight. I think that would be really interesting to get other people to get to do it. That can't do it by themselves.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Like maybe go to an NPC in a Freeport and like the system puts you in a party to do, one of the caves, and then takes you back up to the Freeport after you've done it. I think that could encourage more casual players to do this kind of quest that no one does with us on large companies.
Yep, I like
That'd be
it.
kind of cool. Yeah.
And I want trade winds in the water, underwater currents to help you travel across the world faster.
That'd be nice.
I think they could do that
What do
pretty
you guys
easily.
think? I would love to see for them to add like kind of like Arc Extinction has, where you have like do an orbital supply drop and waves of like this game would be like waves of NPCs and stuff like that, just charge at you when you do it. What you do? Do you think that would be a good idea? I'm talking about like a tower defense kind of system. We just go
Like
to
make NPCs more viable for land
no.
defense?
Like let's say you go to an island and you have to protect this structure or treasure, and the game starts spawning NPCs that just in waves, different waves that just charge towards the objective, and they're gonna try to destroy it and just have to protect it. Kind of like the orbital supply drops that they have in Ark. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. I think Zunit is more familiar with that since he's done it too.
What's Arc?
I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Like in general, I would love for them to that like more capes or like more quests where people can just party up and just do this stuff.
We want more PvE content. There's all kinds of bosses and stuff that they could add eventually and do things like that. The ice cave was a nice touch. I would like to see something out on the water, some sort of a king ship of the damned or something. Like and
You mean like the ghost ship?
No, not at all.
Like,
I mean
like,
a big.
How about
set.
like what we did near the end of season 1 where we did the Kraken Ball, like something that encouraged people to just take all their ships to one spot.
The ghost ship is not a boss. I mean, it's just a big ass ship that you go out there and shoot with a couple ass blasters and you call it a day. It's nothing. It's not the ice cave. What I'm talking about is some sort of big ship with the dam, like the leader of all the ships of the dam, so to speak. And you go, you find it, you start fighting it, and you get it down to a certain health. Then maybe you gotta pull up alongside it and board it. Then you get on there, start fighting your way to the captain. Fight the captain for the final boss in a different form. Something you got to do, different meta, whatever, blah blah blah. And maybe he could even drop you some kind of loot at the end, like a fucking compass that would point to the closest ship to the dam when you go into a golden age or something. Some kind of reward that would dignify each boss rather than just, here you go, here's 4,000 mythos, have a nice day. So give us something more unique, something that would improve your gameplay.
Yeah, I'm sure that stuff is coming. But you got to think of like how much programming that's going into it. Like I'm sure it's coming. Like look at the ice cave. The ice cave is beautiful. Like it's actually a really good encounter.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's coming. But like to use mechanics and things that are already in the game. Like I said this a while back, is like make the ghost ship on the Atlas map so everyone can see it and give it actual rewards for it. Just like we were talking about like giving like BPs or whatever like that. And so when people see it on the map, people are going to start sailing out there. And then all of a sudden you have PvE content, but you also have PvP content because people are going to be fighting over it. I think that's a very like simple way to like add a new mechanic in like game mode with very little effort on the devs part.
Yep.
True.
Yeah, I like that. All right, well, I ran out of topics here.
What an interesting time, dude.
Yeah.
I got some sweet fucking PMs, dude. Some clips made. My house threatened to be burned down, dude. High five.
Got some incentive to go fight some
yeah?
people now?
Yeah.
Let's see that incentive, man. I want to see clips this week. I want to see you in action out there kicking ass.
Jesus
I want some
Christ,
video.
dude. Imagine being so triggered, dude. I couldn't even. Couldn't even. I love it, dude. I love your chat, dude, by the way. So these are fun.
Who do you think is going to drop the first World Egg?
One of you guys.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming, dude.
I don't know.
I
What
I
to
mean,
do with all the
does
gold.
Either way, invite me, boys. Let's go.
Hold on
I'm
to
not sure
pantaloons,
SDC
boys.
I'm not sure SDC needs to drop a war token yet. So far, taking islands is kind of easy.
I think
Shut
war
up,
tokens
you're-
in general are
Shut
pretty
up,
bad.
Greenhorn, dude.
war
You're
tokens are
Greenhorn
kinda shit.
SDC. I was in
Yeah.
SDC long before you were in SDC.
I don't know. I see you over there in oof right now.
Bro, I was licking
Different
SDC
game. Different game.
way before you, felon.
Me and Eugene go way back. Like way back.
Yeah.
Way back.
We'll be hearing
You
that
told
in
me.
5 years from now. It's going to be me and Drew Bucket go way back. Way back.
Me and Black Hole, dude. Yo, before they came and burned my house down, dude, it was sick, bro. Like, holy shit. What an attack. That was crazy. They fobbed up IRL. Them boys are fucking serious.
All right, well.
I want to see clips.
I'll try, dude. With my
I
flip phone.
I do want to call it here with the podcast. Yeah. Any final segments you guys wanna give? Any closing segments? Anyone?
Yeah, I think the game's a lot of fun right now. With all the little tweaks we're trying to make here in general, from where it was season 1 when I played then to where it is now. I made the jump of that magnitude, I guess. The game's good. It's smooth. You can actually PvP. There's different metas you can actually use. It's skill based right now. Honestly, there's some skill gaps. I mean, yes, mythical ships and all this stuff, but there's still skill gaps to be had. So I wouldn't give up yet as a small group. I'd keep going.
Yeah,
I'm having more fun this season than I did both last 2 seasons for sure, and that may be because of my move or whatnot. But overall, I'm having a lot more fun in the game. I think it's because of the state of the play it is right now is much more fun.
I think the game is improving, and just judging by the last couple of weeks, the amount of patches we had, like whether you agree with the harpoon change or all the other small changes we've had to, let's say, torpor or whatever, whether you agree with it or not, doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, they're changing stuff around. And I think compared to what we had in July and August especially, the game didn't feel like it was actually getting developed for quite some time, because nothing changed. And I think them just changing anything now feels very good, and gives me a lot of hope for the future of the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think season 2 could have just been completely skipped, but I'm glad we're at the point we're at right now, and I think the game's population is going to continue to grow as long as the devs continue to push